שזה פחד על המשפחה שלי. אני לא מגיעה להם לקבור ילדה.
Every single person that I lost on that day would have made the hell out of this life. And for them, I need to continue living.
Well, today marks the one-year anniversary of October 7th, the Hamas attack on the Nova Music Festival in Israel, which was a celebration of music, peace, and freedom, until it turned into a killing field when 400 festival goers were murdered or taken hostage.
Our next guests are the executive producers of the documentary film We Will Dance Again, Surviving October 7th, which details the unimaginable minute-by-minute accounts of that day told by 24 survivors. The film features actual cell phone footage recorded while the survivors were fleeing and hiding. Please welcome Susan Zirinsky and Terrence Wong. Welcome. Good to have you here.
Great to see you.
Thanks so much.
Let's get straight into this. First of all, a year has passed. So much has stayed the same, so much has changed. What was the goal? You're journalists, you're filmmakers. What was your goal when you set out to make this film?
Well, I think what happened is we were pitched something that was already in progress, well underway. And, you know, with an event like this, it becomes so much a record of history. And both Terry got the first call, he came in, I looked at a small reel, and it was kind of an instant. We said, we're gonna do this. So we went to the boss of bosses, and we had a yes in a minute. And so we really pushed hard. And we know that they were taking it all over to major streamers, other networks. So this was a pretty easy decision because both Terry and I sort of are very much journalists and want to take people into a situation. And Yariv Mosher, the director, had just gone wild, not gone wild. He really picked up his camera and he was there to document history.
Well, you mentioned that you're both journalists. You're journalists, you're filmmakers, you're very experienced. Susan, you did a documentary about 9/11. Terry, you've seen pretty much everything that's out there. But this was a pretty unique experience, having that cell phone footage, having those first-person accounts. What was it like for you going through that footage as you started to put this together? What was the impact?
Well, I think we got it right. My last name is wrong, and I covered the Middle East for 15 years. So it was very familiar in some ways, but these events now, I mean, with the cameras that are available, this is probably the most filmed event attack of this kind in history. And so it was horrific. You had cameras worn by the Hamas fighters, and you had cameras by the survivors. So the most documented event was outrageous to watch.
One of the survivors in the film, this is a very memorable line, and he's shooting himself, and he's covered, and he's terrified, and he said, "I'm filming this so that I can remember what really happened."
When you're making a film like this, which seems so much larger than life, and I don't know how your hands were in this, how do you know what ends up on the cutting room floor?
Well, I mean, this is so graphic, and there was so much footage, and Susan Zirinsky and I squabbled a little bit about what to blur or not to blur.
I would say that's an understatement, but that's okay.
But we felt it was important for people to see this. It's been debated. There's even stories out that civilians were not killed to the degree that they were. There's a BBC interview this past week where the Hamas leader said that. This is kind of the irrefutable record of history.
I mean, we always say this documentary will create a record of history. Like with my 9/11, there are certain points that you can't deny. This is very much not a political film. We take you, Yariv Mosher takes you to the event through the eyes and the voices of the survivors. There's no denying what you see because you're seeing it.
It's first person, it's first person account.
Yeah, having reviewed so much footage, having seen this so many times, is there one scene or one piece of the documentary that really sticks with you?
I think we were both amazed as filmmakers and unbelievably struck by the grenades being thrown into the bomb shelter. Several of the most powerful stories are from people who were in the shelter filming, and one man who picked up the grenades and threw them back out after another man who'd been doing that was killed. But then you cut to the camera outside and you see the Hamas point of view of the grenades being thrown back out. I mean, it was just, unbelievable to watch this in real time.
I don't think either of us have ever had a dramatic moment filmed from both perspectives. That was what was so extraordinary.
How did you get, in all of this footage, how did you get access to some of that Hamas footage?
Well, the filmmaker made requests of the Israeli military, who had taken the GoPro cameras off the dead Hamas fighters, but didn't get the footage from the Israeli military. He had to work all of his own sources and accumulate this. And he was looking for specific scenes that his survivors had told him about. Was there Hamas footage of that? And unbelievably, he succeeded in finding actual footage of the individuals he was interviewing as they were being attacked.
Sure.
Well, it was interesting. Hamas put the video up on YouTube in a very prideful way, but it began to have a really bad backlash, and so they removed it. So unless you downloaded it immediately, that's why Reeves' success, along with several other people within the organization and his team, they really secured that footage.
Why should, bottom line, why should people see this film? Why is it important?
I think that this, as I said a minute ago, sometimes you have to see what really happened. And really, it takes away from people denying it happened. It is, and Terry and I talk about this, the documentary itself becomes a record of history. And you can't deny it. It's happened.
I mean, today is a day of anti-Israeli Gaza sensitivity demonstrations around the city. The Israeli retaliation actually started tomorrow. Today was the day the Israeli civilians were massacred. Interesting choice that the demonstration started today. So this film is an important way to say, no, civilians were massacred on that day.
Period, full stop, regardless of which side,
We've taken really a very important position that this is not a political film. We were asked to show this at the UN, and we said no, because we wanted this to be pure and have no political, absolutely no political ties, so that no one can say it's a propaganda tool for the Israelis.
Thank you for doing the work. We appreciate it, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you for
Thanks for
having
having
us.
us.
Congratulations. We Will Dance Again, Surviving October 7th, is streaming now on Paramount+.